The Israelites had a tendency to synthesize elements from neighboring cultures, and the Phoenicians played a role in this process. The worship of Canaanite deities, including Baal and Asherah, found its way into Israelite religious practices. As described in the Hebrew Bible, these influences can be seen in the biblical narratives of Israelite idolatry and their struggle to remain faithful to only Yahweh. Phoenician expertise in craftsmanship and maritime trade likely influenced the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem, known as the Solomon Temple. Phoenician artisans and materials were involved in the construction, and some architectural and artistic elements may have been influenced by Phoenician styles. The Hebrew Bible contains references to Phoenician cities such as Tyre and Sidon and their cultural practices. For example, the story of King Hiram of Tyre collaborating with King Solomon in the building of the temple highlights the close relationship between the Israelites and Phoenicians. The First Temple period in ancient Israel refers to the time when the first temple, also known as Solomon's Temple, stood in Jerusalem. This period spans between approximately 10th century BCE until its destruction by the Babylonians in 586 BCE. Understanding the religious landscape during this period is complex, and scholarly views vary regarding the extent of polytheistic practices present during this time. The practice of monotheism seems to be only after the Israelites returned back from Babylon in the 5th century. Scholars suggest that polytheistic elements persisted during this period. They argue that while Yahweh may have been regarded as the primary deity, other gods and goddesses were still acknowledged and worshipped alongside Yahweh. The archaeological evidence, including inscriptions and artifacts found in Jerusalem, indicate the presence of symbols associated with other deities during this time. The Elephantine Jews were a Jewish community that resided in the ancient city of Elephantine, located on an island in the Nile River in Egypt. They lived during the 5th century BCE and left behind a corpus of documents known as the Elephantine Papyri, which provides insights into the religious beliefs and practices of the time. Based on the Elephantine Papyri, it appears that the religion of the Elephantine Jews was a blend of Yahweh worship and syncretic elements influenced by the local religious environment. While they acknowledged Yahweh as the primary deity, they also incorporated certain practices from both Egyptian and Canaanite religious traditions. These Elephantine Jews built and maintained a temple dedicated to Yahweh on the island. They considered Yahweh as the supreme deity and sought his guidance and protection. However, alongside the worship of Yahweh was also other gods and goddesses like Asherah. One of the prominent deities mentioned in the Elephantine Papyri is Yahweh, often identified as a synchronistic form of Yahweh fused with Egyptian gods like Ammon. Additionally, Egyptian gods, particularly Khnum, Satis, and Anuket, were worshipped in this location. These deities were believed to have protective powers and were invoked for various purposes such as fertility, health, and general well-being. This Elephantine papyrus indicates a level of polytheism and syncretism, as well as cultural assimilation, where elements of different religious traditions coexisted. Overall, the Elephantine Jews maintained a distinctive religious identity centered around Yahweh, but also incorporated beliefs and practices from their local environment. Their religion demonstrates the complex nature of religious syncretism and the adaptation of religious traditions in a multicultural text. The exact time frame for the final compilation of the Torah, or the first 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, into its current monotheistic form, is a subject of scholarly debate. Most scholars agree that these texts were written during post-Babylonian exile. As the Israelites returned to their land, religious leaders and scribes likely engaged in the process of collecting, editing, and shaping various religious texts. There is no mention of the Torah by any Greek, Egyptian, Persian, or Syrian sources before the 5th century BCE. Moses and Noah and Abraham are not mentioned in any text before the 5th century BCE. Only the kings like David and Omri show up in some steles, but the stories of the flood, the Exodus, and the 12 tribes of Israel show up in popular culture only after Alexander the Great conquers Persia in the 4th century BCE. There are some scholars who now suggest that the 5 books of Moses were compiled in Alexandria during the Ptolemaic period. Ancient historians like Herodotus, Xenophon, and Thucydides don't even mention Israel in their writings. This suggests that Israel was not a powerful kingdom, just a small city-state. It's possible that these texts existed as independent scrolls during these periods, but they were not known to most of the world outside the Levant until the 4th century BCE.